so we are in the middle of these summer months. I know a lot of you are getting started on training, and I recently did a video about what to consider in these hot weather running times of ours. So I thought it would be a really good idea to go over what to consider when you are buying a hydration pack, because probably a lot of you are looking right now. I know my friend Tiffany, who is training for a marathon, who I'm actually coaching as well, she just bought her first hydration vest last week. So the timing seemed apropos. So let's get to it, guys. And as I go through each of these, if you guys are finding the video helpful, I would appreciate if you press the like below and consider subscribing if you are into all things running, which is what we do on this channel. All right, Hydration Pack 101, number 1. The first thing you guys want to look for is how much water it carries. So obviously, if you are going to be doing long runs and you're looking for a hydration pack, then this is the most important thing. So something that's really important that I didn't realize until recently is that you'll see something like the vest or the pack it might say something like 4 liters or 12 liters. And you're thinking, wow, that is a ton of water. That's actually not how much water it holds. It's the storage capacity of the vest. So don't look at that. You want to make sure that you're clearly looking at how many ounces of water it can hold with what is included in the vest, or what it's at least compatible with, okay? So let's talk about this vest. This comes with 2 bottles. So on the vest, they go in the front here, so they just slide right in there and you tuck in these here. And so each of these are 20 ounces worth of water or 600 milliliters worth of water. So total 40 ounces or 1,200 milliliters of water. So this is actually compatible with a bladder as well, which I have here. I'm sure I could have used this one. I actually haven't even tried, but this is a Nathan brand. This is a Camelback bladder, but this is what I mean when I'm talking about a bladder. So it is compatible with a bladder. So beyond the 40 ounces of water, you could have, I think it's 1.5 liters more of water in the back as well. So I would say 40 ounces of water is probably the minimum that you want to be able to carry in a hydration pack, because you're going to be doing some very, very long runs if you're doing marathon training. 40 ounces of water is usually about good for me. Sometimes I feel like I wish I had a little bit more, so I would say 50 ounces would probably be about perfect. So if you can find yourself a 50-ounce pack, such as what I have in this one right here, this is a Camelback, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, then you're good to go. And if you're someone who is trail running, doing ultra runs, you're gonna want more than that as well. So make sure that you're considering that if you are an ultra trail runner, that you're gonna be wanting something more like the Vapor Car 12 liter, which stores more and also has a higher capacity for more water as well. So number 2, that leads us into the overall size of what you're using, or the size or the weight. So you want basically as little bulk as possible with still getting your needs met in terms of how much water you can put in it, and possibly pockets as well. So if you're a trail runner, then obviously you're going to be storing a lot in the pack. You're probably going to need a light jacket in case there's rain. You might not need that in marathon training as well. So I have that in this. You can see it zips down, so you can easily stuff a jacket in that and be able to pull that out. So that's something you want to think about. But when I first when I started marathon training again in 2017, after being on hiatus for 10 years, I was like, I really need a water pack this time around, because what I was using way back in my 20s around my waist, it was not going to work. So I wanted a vest or a backpack type. I was like, I think we have something like that from camping. So I go and I pull this monster out. It's like basically a backpack. And yes, it holds a bladder of water, but I'm like, okay, no, that's not gonna work. And then I found this in the closet, which is actually a kid's water pack. I'm like, oh yeah, my sister-in-law gave these to my kids one year. And so I'm like, maybe this will work. Well, I'm just a pretty small person. And so yeah, sure enough, and it holds 50 ounces of water in the bladder, and that worked for me. So I know that's not gonna work for a lot of you, but I will say if you're a smaller person like me, I'm 5'2", then you might consider it because they're cheaper. This is the Camelback Mini Mule, and I'll make sure I link it below. But there's one similar in size that is for adults, and you can get different sizes in as well, and that is called the Camelback Hydro Back. It holds 50 ounces of water as well. It's very similar to this one and for adults. So I'll make sure I link that one as well. And so both of these are really, really light. That's what you want to look for. And just kind of the overall feel as little bulk as possible. So next you want to be thinking about if you want to go with drinking from a bladder of water. So that's this, okay? Or if you'd prefer water bottles. Now, the good thing, the benefit of having a bladder is that it can store a lot more water in, one package basically, instead of having multiple water bottles. However, I like having the option of having more than one bottle. I love that about this vest, because I use something called Tailwind as fuel for my runs, which I have a video about this, noon versus Tailwind. I'll link that in case you're curious. I talk a lot about, what this is and why I use it. And so that way I can have iced water in one, and Tailwind in the other. Or if you're someone who wants just an electrolyte drink in water, something like that, it's nice to have options. Whereas with this, when I was using this several years ago, I guess it's been I've had this vest for a couple years now. So prior to that, I was using this and it worked great at the time, but I could only have one thing. And so since I was needing this for my nutrition, I never had any plain water. And sometimes you just want that plain water. So I would consider that, and especially if you're choosing something like this, you can have the bladder and the bottles. That's really, really convenient. Just nice to have options, right? I also like this because I can use different bottles. Like if I'm going on a much shorter run and I don't need these bigger bottles with the longer straws, sometimes I really like these. These are Fitly. I talk about these in my other videos. I love them, but these fit in nice and neat as well. You don't have to necessarily use the bottles that it comes with, right? Okay, number 4 is pockets. So we know that people who are endurance runners, they need nutrition as well. And if you're not using something like I am with this powdered drink, then you need to be able to put your gels somewhere. And maybe you have shorts that have pockets or something like that, but having them in your vest is really nice. So I always just use these pockets right here to put gels in, or if you have your phone or you have a credit card, your keys, things like that, this big pocket in the back as well. So just when you're making your choice, be looking at what it has for storage as well. Okay, the next one is fit and comfort. So this is why it's really good to be able to go to your local running store and try one on, and they can help you get in the perfect fit. So I didn't do that. I actually ordered one and I ended up needing a different size. But my husband ordered it for me a Christmas present, I think a couple years ago, and he ordered it from a store that was also local. So I just took it in and was able to exchange it and get a different size. Basically, you want it to be able to fit completely snug. You don't want it shaking around at all. That's not going to be comfortable for you. So make sure that you're in a size where when you have it tight, it feels good. And obviously you don't want it to be too small either. So it's just sometimes a matter of getting the right size. If you are ordering online, make sure you're reading the measurement charts that they have there. I also really like this vest because it's women's specific. This is the Vapor How vest, women's specific from Nathan. And then they have the Vapor Car, which is for men. Obviously women's bodies are built differently. And so just for them to consider that in making the vest, it might give you a much more comfortable fit than choosing one that's unisex. And then the last one is, which I've seen people talk about and ask about in comments on other videos and blogs and things like that, is the breathability. You're already outside running, raising that heart rate, in the hot sun. So you want to make sure that it has a breathable material. Looking for something like this where you can see the mesh there on the front. That's super helpful, as well as they have it on the back, but this is also like a thick panel. So that's gonna be pretty warm on your back. That's really the reason why I haven't used a bladder on this one in the past, is just to keep it as nice and cool as possible. And this has some components on it that keeps it breathable as well. There's little mesh in here, and just super, super thin material. So most of the companies that make these now are doing a really good job of that. If you are choosing one that's more of a budget one, and I've seen some ones on Amazon, you guys, I'll link a couple below that I've seen that get really awesome reviews, but just make sure that you're reading reviews and taking that into consideration, because it absolutely matters when you are running a lot of miles. All right, guys, thanks for joining me. I hope that this was helpful for you. If you have any more questions, make sure you put them in the comments below. I'd be happy to answer them, and I will talk to you guys in the next video.